All right. Good evening, everybody. We're going to get started and call our meeting to order, and we're going to start with an invocation by Chaplain Chitwood.
I'd like to have a few moments of silence for four firefighters who have lost their life this past month in the U.S. Dear God, we give honor to those who have chosen to serve others and to lay their life on the line for others. And these four fallen firefighters, Lord, I pray that you'll watch over them for eternity. That you'll be with their families, Lord, give them strength and comfort during a time of loss. And as always, Lord, we ask for protection for the firefighters of Bonita and the surrounding areas, that you'll keep them safe from harm. You'll watch over them and their families. We thank you for the freedom we have in this country and the ability to meet and share together, and just pray that you'll always look down upon us with your favor and your guidance. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there any public comments on agenda items? All right, with none, we're going to move on. Number 5, approval of February 2025 meeting minutes for, we'll do February 10th and 2025 executive meeting minutes and regular meeting minutes. I need a motion, please, to approve.
Motion. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of February 2025 financials, one motion. It's going to be for the February 2025 and current expenditures and ACH payments, acknowledgement of financial report, acknowledgement of wire transfers and transfer between accounts, and purchase orders over $100,000. I need a motion, please.
So moved.
$10,000, wasn't it?
Yes, $10,000.
$10,000, thank you.
So moved.
I need a second,
Second.
please. All in favor?
Aye.
Commissioner's business. We'll start with Commissioner Murphy. Commissioner Lohan?
No?
Nothing?
I'm good, sir.
You're good? I just wanted to ask the chief about, with the construction going on here, and we've talked about it many times, the light at Snell Lane. They're going to be moving in there soon. They're actually selling units now. It's right where we have to come out, and then there's going to be a problem on Bonita Grand itself,
So we'll continue to look into it. We've talked to the builder across the street, Midtown Bonita, to ask them to pay for the light itself. They've declined. We have no real ordinance or any type of way to force them to do it.
No legal
We've talked
recourse.
with the fire marshal. So we've appealed to them along with Pulte Homes to kind of go in partnerships, because we have the townhomes to the south of here. Pulte, from what I understand, is going to be the builder of the quarry when those 750 homes come in there, along with Midtown, to ask them if they would do it out of the gracious stuff of their heart. As of today, at 5 minutes after 5, they've all declined. We will continue to ask, and we will start the process of putting money away from it. Last time I looked into a light for just a flashing yellow light with controls for here and controls at Bonita Beach Road, so we can make a left or a right out of the station. It was in the neighborhood from $350,000 to $500,000
Wow.
to do that.
Yeah.
And that's still got to get the okay from DOT to allow it also. So there's some hoops to jump through. So we've looked into it.
Okay, but the process is started.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chief. We have a presentation now of a promotional opinion of Deputy Chief Kelly Wilson.
Yes, as you know, last October, Chief Madden took retirement and left. During that time, we put it out to the rank and file to see who wanted it. We did interview process, myself and Chief Broad. Through the interview process, we made the decision to promote then Captain Kelly Wilson. You know, Kelly came to us 8 years ago now, from Captiva. She was a lieutenant at Captiva. She helped run their ALS program at Captiva. Prior to that, she was at Lehigh, and prior to that, she was at Lee County EMS. You know, when she left Lehigh, it was because they had to lay her off because of a safer grant. They stopped having it. So Kelly brings 20 years of experience and she started when she was 12. So 20 years of experience to the fire service and to Bonita Springs Fire. When she came here 8 years ago, 7.5, 8 years ago, then Chief Scott, who was running our medical side of it, kind of took her under his wing and showed her the ropes. And Kelly has a natural passion for the EMS side. Even prior to her coming to us, she was on the protocol subcommittee, which helps do the common treatment guideline for Lee County EMS. She is very active in state meetings and with the state itself. Since she came here, she's gotten to be real good friends with our state inspector and other movers and shakers at the state level. So for me and for Jason, it was a natural selection to put her in there. She's well-connected. She deserves the job. And quite frankly, when Eric was in the process of retiring, he actually showed Kelly some stuff and kind of, he was his choice at one point. So I'd like to congratulate Kelly for Deputy Chief of EMS, and I believe her daughter Courtney and her he's, 3 now? His grandson's going to come up and pin her. Courtney. Congratulations again.
All right, congratulations, Chief. We've got a presentation now, of a 9/11 presentation by Miss Bonnie Cairns. Very Irish name.
Thank you. Well, it will soon be 25 years. How many actually remember that day, or you just remember what somebody told you about it? I know there are some vintage folks in the room, like myself, that were actually watching, but some you might have been in elementary school. When I come here on Saturdays with the string band, and I see the flags as I walk out, and I kind of get this gut punch every time I go out and think, I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to talk to your chief, and he invited me here to speak to you, and I thank you, because the more I talk about it, just like things, it's easier to deal with. This is what we all remember when we saw the news. I'm a nurse, and I'm from Canada, and when this happened, I'm thinking, oh, they'll never call a nurse from Canada to be here because there's so many people. But they were so overwhelmed that a lot of nurses from Canada came to Ground Zero to help. These are all the people running away, and these are all the firefighters going. And 343 firefighters died that day, and you can see these firefighters heading now, and probably most of them died that day because you can see they're heading and the towers haven't collapsed at this point. This is a little bit of the logistics. Everything that's gray came down immediately. Everything that was blue had to be torn down and was falling apart. Everything kind of orange could be salvaged. And I was just on those, I haven't got a pointer here, maybe you can see with this. Oh, there I am. So I was in a building very close, I can't get it over there, very close to that blue one on the right. I was in a school setting up a respite center and a first aid station. This is the United Nations, and that's my hotel behind it. And in the hotel, I would look out, and I could tell you what kind of a day it was going to be because I could see Ground Zero from my hotel window. If it was windy, I knew I'd be dealing with debris in the eyes and maybe respiratory problems. So just by looking there, I knew what to expect for the day. On my way to work, I passed Ground Zero, and they had this barrier all around. And the tourists still came to Ground Zero. They got off on the buses, and they walked the perimeter. They still came. And I was walking, and a letter blew out of the chain link fence, and I picked it up, and it said, there was a picture of a young man, and they said, "This is my son, and his name is David. If you see him, will you tell him to call his mother? So I rolled it up and I put it back in the fence, knowing that it would probably blow out again. This was the only picture I took. We weren't supposed to take any pictures because it was considered a crime scene, nor could you pick up any souvenirs. You could be picking up bone fragments if you even picked up a stone. So this one picture I took, there's a paramedic, young paramedic from California in the middle, and there's a nurse from Washington, and she actually wrote a book later. It was called Band-Aids for Heroes, and she was honored by President Bush. And that's me from Canada. I used to be taller with red hair, so it's been a while. And there's my badge that would let us right down to Ground Zero because we had to go visit right down and talk to the physicians that were down there. I couldn't leave the building without all of this equipment on, and some Red Cross people who left without these on, they were sent home. That's how serious it is. The air was wildly toxic, 50% construction debris, 40% glass, 0.2 cellulose carcinogens, lead, mercury. More than 2,500 police, firefighters, ambulance, and sanitation workers have since been diagnosed with cancer. 100,000 Ground Zero workers were eligible to register in case of future health issues. So I got the letter at home and said, you should, in case you have problems later on, you should register. Do you know how many people registered when 100,000 could? Do you want to guess? Very low, 14,000, fewer than 14,000. This is Ground Zero, and everything that you see is white is kind of dust and ash. And you could look through those slats, and you could actually see blinds in there and desks when you walk through. And I would come down here in a golf cart if I had a patient come to first aid that needed more than a basic first aid, so I had to take the patient down where the physicians were. Now, a lot of people, they never got their relatives back, their loved ones. So the firefighters got these small wooden boxes, and they would scoop some of this white ash and put it in these boxes, and they would give this small box of ash to families so they'd have something tangible to bury or to keep. A couple of stories. Oh, where'd it go? Well, that's gone. Gone. I still carry a projector. I've always got Plan B. While she's getting this back, I'll tell you there was a place called Pier 94. And this is where all the families brought the forensics, the hairbrushes and toothbrushes. So if their family's loved one was discovered, then they could match it with the forensics and know that their loved one had been accounted for.
We need to go with the hard wire.
Okay. They're back at, that one there. No, one over, yeah. Okay, back at, thanks, thank you, back at Pier 94. And I was talking to a firefighter who was the same age as me. We both realized we were 55. And I asked him about Pier 94, and he said the whole wall, a huge room, the whole wall was a collage of all the people who had died. And the families would gather and just hang out and comfort one another. And he said he was doing some volunteer work there. And he said under one of the tables was a whole bunch of teddy bears with a little thing around the neck. And he said he picked one of the teddy bears up and looked at the message, and it said, "I know how you feel. My mommy died in the Oklahoma bombings." He said that was the day he cried. We kind of all had that moment where we felt overwhelmed. After working, I got home at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was watching reruns of Gilligan's Island. I know that's enough to make anybody cry. But in the middle of this, there was a rabbit that died, and I started to cry, and I thought, why am I crying? And then I realized this was my moment to cry. Wherever you went in New York, there were the pictures of all the firefighters who had died, and the other firefighters were there, and they were talking to you. And I asked one, how do you do this? And he says, because of so much support we've had from all the people that are here. He said, it's just helping. Every firehouse, as you can see, covered with cards and letters. I was there for about 10 days when someone said, have you had a day off yet? And I said, no, I've got people with bandages, I've got this. And they said, no, you're here 10 days, you have to take a day off. So I took a tour around Manhattan Island. So I'm in a tour boat here, looking in at Ground Zero. And I'm not from New York, so it looked perfectly okay for me, but there should be no white space there. That's where the towers were. Now I'm going to show you a picture from the other side of all the buildings. And you can see the tour boat just out there between two of those towers. And that's what it looked like. And that first building to the right was the building that I was working in. And they had dogs searching. Now, I didn't know that, there are dogs that hunt for people who are alive, but the dogs were getting depressed, and they were actually having vomiting and diarrhea. And they had to have their feet covered because it was sharp out there. And the dogs were not finding anyone alive. So they had to bring in cadaver dogs, and those dogs were finding what they were supposed to, and those dogs didn't get depressed. I had no idea that dogs would be depressed. Oh, I must tell you, one day the dogs went crazy. These were the dogs looking for live people, and the dogs went crazy. Everything stopped, whistles blew, no one made a noise because they were listening for pounding or something. And they found a mother cat with 6 kittens. They had 2,000 phone calls to adopt the kittens. These are some of the cards and letters that kids from all over the world sent to the workers. Get well soon, Washington and New York. Now these two, there's firefighters there on the left and police officers on the right, and we were asked if we took any of these, write to the school and tell the kids how important they were to the firefighters. And I did. I wrote all the cards and I said, you have no idea what these cards and letters meant to the workers down there. These two I took home, and they are hanging in our local fire college. This is my favorite. You kind of sounded out, firemen, you are the best. I said to one of the firefighters, are you reading these cards? There were shoe boxes on all the tables in the dining room. I said, are you reading these beautiful cards? And this firefighter said, I try to, but they make me cry. Do you know what this is? Statue of Liberty with tears. A young police officer came into my first aid station, and he said, so you're a nurse? Yes. And you're from Canada? Yes. And you're a volunteer? Yes, I am. And you've come all this way to help us and volunteer? Yes. He said, that's amazing. And I said to him, if Canada had a problem and we called you, would you come to help? He said, I would in a heartbeat. And we would, wouldn't we? We would care for each other and we would help. A young man, about 18, had a job near where I was. And he came into the first aid station, and he says, I'm supposed to get my dressing changed. And I took his dressing off. His hand was about 5 times the size of it should have been. His fingers were all swollen and stuck together. I said, what did you do? He said, I cut it on a hose. Okay, and I'm thinking, what? And I'm bandaging it, and I had another patient with chest pain, so I had the doctors actually in the clinic. And I said, and a red flag, when it doesn't make sense in your head as a healthcare provider, you think, okay, why is this? And I said, tell me again about the hose. His job was to get debris off the trucks before the trucks left. Now, I read an article 2 weeks before anything happened at Ground Zero, and it was an article about high-pressure hose injuries. And I read it, and I thought, oh, this is something Emerge should have. That's what he had, was a high-pressure hose injury. And what he did, he had these gloves on, and he had crud on his gloves. So he took the hose and went like this, and a chunk of his glove embedded itself into his hand, and he actually had about 4 hours before he lost his hand. It's a very dangerous thing to have a high-pressure hose injury. And the doctors were there and looked after him. But a lot of people were working, just hired immediately, and probably hadn't gone through a really good process of safety. a minister in Port Huron, Michigan, which is right across from where I live. He and I were at a conference together, and he said he was down at Ground Zero, but he said he couldn't minister to people because there was nobody could hear him. So he pulled it up and put it on the top of his head. And so he was there for hours and hours. And when he got home, he was coughing a lot, and his doctor said, have you ever heard of black lung you get in a coal mine? He said, that's what it looks like you have. And he did get better, but that Ground Zero without a mask was very dangerous. A young steel worker came into my first aid station carrying his boots, and he was limping. And I said, oh, what's wrong with your feet? He said, my feet are good, it's my eyes. Oh, so I got some stuff and cleaned his eyes out. And I said, now tell me about your feet. Well, he said, when I got the call to come here, I didn't have any work boots, so I had to use my brother's, and he's a size smaller than me. But now I've got boots. So I kind of gave him the mom lecture. I sat down and said, and his feet were actually bleeding and blistered, and I had to bandage them all. And I said, are you eating all right? Are you drinking? Are you doing all the things? He's going, yes, Mom, and kind of rolling his eyes. And then he left, and he was sitting outside in the dining room, and I walked by, and this kid was about 6'7". This is the first time I was standing up, so his belt buckle was about here, and he looked down at me, and he said, I want to talk to you about my feet. And I said, okay, what? He said, I've been here for 2 weeks, and he said, for that, and he tried to tell me, he said, for that few minutes, you actually were my mom. It's amazing the impact you can have on people when you do volunteer work and care for others. Now, when we left Ground Zero and came out into the community, all of these people were standing there with signs and yelling, thank you, thank you. And the other nurse and I got out of the cab and said, what are you doing here? And they said, we can't help, we can't go to Ground Zero and help, but we can say thank you to those people who do. And they stopped everybody who went through to say hello and thank you. This is what the Twin Towers look like. And then and my husband and I went back to visit because I had to make sure New York was okay, and I think they're okay. Thank you for inviting me here this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Anyone have any questions?
That was a very touching and moving. Thank you so much.
Thank you again for inviting me.
All right, I need a motion to approve disposals.
Motion.
I need a second
I didn't hear the motion.
for our disposals.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Old business. Commissioners? Nothing?
I'm still following up on the scuba diving stuff, equipment and stuff like that. I'm
Okay.
still doing some research with that. I haven't got all my information yet, but as soon as I get everything organized, I'll present it and show it to everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
New business.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, Chief's report.
Thank you. Just a few things to bring you guys up to date on. First thing is I wanted to publicly congratulate Dylan Hood for getting Firefighter of the Year through the VFW. They do that every year. This year's no different, so they had a Firefighter of the Year, and this year they did an EMS Person of the Year, and that went to Christian Mayfield, who's in the credentialing process right now for the paramedic, so he got it for EMS Person of the Year. Reminder that at the end of the month, I'll be going to Tallahassee on the 25th through the 27th. I believe Commissioner Lohan's going for legislative days. If anybody else would like to go, please let us know. Rooms are limited, but we can try and squeeze you in. That's the 25th through the 27th. Then you guys should have gotten a text or an email today about the annual FASD meeting, which is June the 16th through the 19th, which is in Punta Gorda. If anybody would like to go to that, it's their annual one. Also, business after hours this month is in Fort Myers at Swamp Cat Brewing. If anybody would like to go, please get a hold of Anna Marie so she can get you registered. It is the 27th of March.
We're going to be in Tallahassee.
Go ahead, what was that?
I said we're going to be in Tallahassee.
Yeah.
In Tallahassee.
If you notice there, if you came a little bit earlier, if you drove by today, there's a bunch of cars out back and a fire truck from Greater Naples right now. They're doing their new recruits. They've asked to borrow our training tower to do their orientation, so we've obliged them. They'll be doing their new hire orientation out back for the next couple of weeks, actually for next month and a half, I believe it is. Right now, our hiring process is in full swing. We did written tests 2 weeks ago. Saturday, we did the physical agility part of it, and we have interviews the 17th through the 21st, and we'll be hiring 6 as of right now.
So we're looking to fill 6 positions.
Looking to fill 6 position. The other thing to bring you up to date on it, those of you who've been on the board a little while or followed it, we did have a drone here and a drone program. Since the state of Florida 2 years ago, I believe it was, outlawed or wouldn't allow us to use any Chinese-made drones, they put a state statute against it. So I went out and procured a $25,000 grant, up to $25,000 grant to get American-made drones through FDLE. So we've applied for it, we've got it. Chief Schmidt is in the process right now of talking with San Carlos Park and other departments around here that have the drones that we need to find out where we got this from. We have to have this done by June. So if next month or May you see a $25,000 bill there, there's 2 ways we can do it, either through reimbursement or through, well, they'll pay for it first. We're just going to go right and get the reimbursement that way. We don't have to wait on the state to cut a check or, ask them, mother, may I? Well, we know the parameters, we're going to go out and get it, and just ask for
Is
reimbursement.
this one drone?
Yes, one drone.
What do we do with the old Chinese ones?
So the old Chinese one, we have to turn into FDLE. They will give, we only have the one, but if, let's say we had a more robust drone program, they would give you up to $25,000 per drone. So the city of Tallahassee had 7, so they've got, well, whatever 7 times 25 is, $175,000 in reimbursement costs. So they got 7 new drones, and out of pocket, I think they were only out $35,000 for all 7.
Chief Schmidt has been trained in its use already? Or
Yes,
waiting
he is
to
a
go?
Part 107 pilot. He went down to Greater Naples a month and a half ago and took the class and took the test, and he is qualified, and I believe also Calvin Payne is also qualified in a 107.
So
we
that's
have-
going to be 2.
We have 2 pilots right now. Again, just like the scuba, we're going to, walk before we run. Currently, I'll use San Carlos. They only have 1 drone pilot. It's in a big Pelican box about half the size of that podium there, and it is with that person all the time. He is on loan to USAR a few times, so it's worth its weight. So we're going to look at it. As the drone program progresses, we'll get more pilots and/or put it on the battalion chief's vehicle or figure out somehow how it's going to be deployed.
Thank you, sir.
A couple other, just so you guys know, we do have a couple of groups looking at the restaurant down at Station 7's property. I have a meeting on Wednesday at 10 o'clock with them just to get some formalities and see what they really want. I'll bring it back to the board for further discussion at a later date. Also, you may see that the city is doing a town hall meeting. Their city hall is not big enough, so they're having a town hall meeting again on the 27th from 4 to 5:30. It's going to have Commissioner David Melika along with City Manager David Harner here.
Just as a FYI, I got that notification this afternoon, and it doesn't say where it's at. It has the time and the date.
Okay.
And
I'll let them know.
one would assume that they were having it at City Hall when you read it, so.
I'll let them know that. And finally, just so you know, we are working on the annual report to include the stats for the state statute for our performance review. As you know, state statute now requires us to put our performance review parameters and if we're meeting those on our website. So we're just going to incorporate those with our annual report. And just so you guys know, 2024, we ran 9,165 calls, which is an increase of about 8% or 675 calls from last year. And that concludes my report, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Chief. All right, Assistant Deputy Chief Schmidt, do you have anything? Any? Okay. Public comment? Seeing none, I'm going to make a motion for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a
Thank you.
safe evening.